no les voy a mentir. Este es uno de los jueguitos que sí he tenido en la mira, junto con lo que fue Warhammer, que está esperando. Estos son juegos que sí he estado pendiente. Dragon Age, yo jugué el primero y el segundo de Dragon Age y no les voy a mentir, este es el estilo de juego que a mí me encanta. Juego de fantasía, juego de magia, donde tienes tus companions, healer, tanque, mago, archer, ¿sabes? Diferentes clases. Ahora mismo estamos jugando Tron and Liberty. Y si se han dado vuelta por alguna de las plataformas de nosotros, pueden darse cuenta que hemos subido un par de gameplays. Estamos ya casi llegando a lo que es el level 50 para grindear un poquito de lo que es el end gear, para así poder healear un poquito mejor. Es un jueguito, no les voy a mentir, no esperaba en este año que un MMO tan bueno. Free to play, by the way, me recuerda mucho a Guild Wars. No sé si estos son de los creadores de Guild Wars o Lineage. Creo que eran los de Lineage, si no me equivoco. Pero en fin, corillo, Dragon Age no es un MMO, obvio. Pero este juego que es bien single player, pareció a lo que es un MMO, una experiencia single player MMO. Y la historia es bastante entretenida. Los primeros dos que jugué me gustó, fueron bien engaging. El combate aquí cambió. Los primeros eran bastante estacionarios, tú ibas a cambiar, tenías que como que hacer, pues, era como un estilo RPG regular turn-based. Pero un poquito más dinámico. Este no parece ser turn-based. Vamos a ver un poquito del combate. Yo no he visto mucho el combate, no les voy a mentir. Vi un poquito de gameplay, un gameplay completo. Dieron un poco de combate, pero no he visto combate de Mage. Así que vamos a ver qué tal, cómo se ve.
It's been 10 long years since Dragon Age Inquisition, and the expectations for the next game in the series, Dragon Age The Veilguard, seem impossible.
Se ve bien, en verdad. Este es uno de esos juegos que tengo planeado comprar.
And an interesting start to its marketing campaign made me a little worried for my most highly anticipated game of the year.
I admire you. What you've been through would break most people.
But one of my biggest concerns, based on early previews, was that it could be headed in the direction of being a linear action game rather than its more open world predecessor.
Ok. Si esto es bien lineal, en verdad, ahí sí que se van a escocotar. Yo prefiero que sea open world. Si me lo haces bien lineal, no creo que le llegue.
Known for changing its style with each installment, I hope dearly that it wouldn't lose too much of the DA DNA.
Cuando salga el juego vamos a darle unos días para ver.
Hands-on time spread across 2 days, I'm pleased to say that I walked away with excitement and curiosity, but mostly relief to wave many of those concerns goodbye.
Let's go, let's see this. Come on, enséñame. First preview es esto, ¿verdad? Esto es un first preview, yep. This is a first preview. It's a review. Hands-on preview.
My time with the Veilguard covered a wide smattering of things, including the incredibly expansive character creator, the introductory quests, a faction mission, and a companion quest a little deeper into the game.
Esa primera misión la vimos.
I was mostly pleased with my ability to just explore Northern Thedas in all its gorgeously designed glory, experiencing a setting in Dragon Age lore that we've really only heard about. To be clear, the Veilguard isn't the open-world playground that Inquisition was. As game director Corinne Bush has previously stated, it's more mission-based. But what impressed me after the first few hours was how much exploration can still be done in the various regions, as well as the impact the player character, Rook, can have on those regions.
Vamos a ser honestos, puede ser bastante lineal, pero bastante abierto dentro de lo lineal y sentirse bien como un Wukong. Quizá sea bastante divertido, ¿no? Vamos a ver. Yo cuando salga voy a ver gameplay, a ver qué tan divertido se ven los bosses y todo. Cuando la gente ya esté dándole. Y en verdad sí vale la pena hasta ahora lo que veo se ve lindo y me gusta, me llama. By the way, esto estamos viéndolo en 4K, se ve hermoso.
Of course, some of the bigger art style, combat, and gameplay changes will be subject to personal
el gameplay, ¿sabe? Me gusta cómo se ve.
Veilguard, I left feeling like these 10 long years just might have been worth the wait.
En verdad este juego, como ella dice, valió la pena. Aunque quizás parece ser, mira, se ve bien.
Gameplay trailer, players are dropped right into the city of Minrathous in the middle of the action as Solus prepares a ritual that will devastate Thedas. Luckily, our old friend Varric has recruited you to help, and it barely takes a couple of minutes for the game to put the focus on Rook.
Esta historia puede que sea más interesante que el DLC de Starfield. Honestamente. Este juego visualmente se ve bien.
For one, the combat. Gone are the days of Dragon Age Origins' more CRPG-inspired tactical system, offering a style that's a mix of quick action and a mechanic where you can pause and pull up your radial menu. While this absolutely does take some getting used to, and it'll be a gradual process to create what could be a highly customized build while learning all your companions'
ya no va a ser un turn-based.
It didn't take me long
to
action
RPG ahora. con
I
elementos
largely
turn-based.
played mage and rogue builds during my hands-on time, and also quickly started to lean on certain companions' abilities. For one, the mage healing ability was essential. For one particularly difficult remnant, I basically established a pattern where I was only using Balara's mana to heal me, dodging and playing it safe when it got too risky. Nev's ability
Los companions van a ser el vueltón, ¿sabes?
to slow
El game
time was
changer.
also one I kept returning to.
Desde
offering
ahora lo
a
veo.
bit more control on the battlefield when the situation got a little too fast-paced. And for you glass cannon builds out there, you'll want to have a warrior around to taunt your enemies out of your way.
Yo voy a ser tanque, probablemente, o mago.
No problem.
Pero me
Like
encantaría
a
ser un
whole lot in the
tanque.
Veilguard, combat revolves around your companions.
Damn.
Even though you can't fully take
Ya lo que
control of them
exagerado
like
se
in
ve el
previous
combate.
Dragon Age games.
Hacho, no podemos mentir, el combate se ve demasiado
Different
exagerado.
companions have different combo options together,
Miren eso,
and
miren
there
eso.
are certainly
Miren el combate.
opportunities to build team synergy.
Miren eso, miren eso.
And you'll want to listen to your companions in combat too, as they'll occasionally drop some useful hints. But combat aside, your dialogue choices, your rook's background, and the frequent decisions you make are immediately important, which shouldn't be too surprising for fans of BioWare games. The dialogue wheel is back, of course, as is the approval-disapproval system.
No se puede mentir, este juego se ve demasiado de lindo. No voy a mentir.
You get right to the point.
But I was surprised to see that the Veilguard actually explains the consequences of some of your dialogue choices in very clear terms.
See, you say that.
It's a variation of the so-and-so will remember that system, but more specific.
But we do have Nev's location now, so...
Take, for example, my first confrontation with Solus, aka Fen'Harel,
En verdad se ve bien.
aka the Dreadwolf. I chose a more sarcastic, humorous approach with him, and at the end of our confrontation, text on the side of the screen informed me that I have traded verbal jabs with Solus.
This is your responsibility now.
Ok.
It was far from the only occurrence of this sort of
Nice.
text.
So va a
and it
cambiar las
leaves me
decisiones que
curious as
tomemos,
to
lo que
how your
hablábamos, el
relationships
diálogo.
with various characters will build and branch out over time based on your attitude. Speaking of consequences, it quickly became clear to me that there would consistently be tons of choices in the Veilguard that'll have lasting results.
A mí me encantó en Cyberpunk eso, que lo que o sea, las decisiones que tú tomaran iban a afectar la historia completamente. Incluso hay personajes que te podías enamorar y todo y hacer una historia de amor y el juego terminaba bien desarrollado. Yo, pues, obvio, hice mi historia de amor y terminé escapándome. Vámonos juntos. Olvidémonos del universo y somos nosotros dos, olvídate que se chave todo el mundo. Esa fue mi historia en Cyberpunk. ¿Me entiendes? Como el de la serie. Si vieron la serie Cyberpunk, by the way, un 10 de 10,
It
véanla en
probably
Netflix.
sounds like I'm stating
Durísima.
the obvious here, but I got the sense that even more of these kinds of choices
Esto se
might
ve
be
bien.
peppered throughout the
Yo voy a
usual
disfrutar
BioWare game.
ver
Right at the
gameplay de
beginning,
esto
for
y
instance,
probablemente
I made a choice
terminemos
that led to
jugándolo
Harding
antes de que
getting
se acabe el
injured,
año.
and she was still bruised up for the remainder of the next couple hours. I felt like a real jerk about it, and that was probably the point. Dragon Age the Veilguard seemed to be telling me, right from the start, that I'm going to feel like a jerk a lot.
You don't slow down for much, do you?
Without
Eres dueño de una casa.
Lamentablemente,
Tienes un medidor de
le tocará ver uno que otro anuncio conmigo, así que seguimos aquí.
much, you'll also be able to see some of your progression and choices in the environment around you as well. But once introductions were out of the way, it was time to explore the wide world of Thetis and see its past and present collide.
Shall we? Let's do this.
Vamos a ver el mundo. Visualmente me encanta, honestamente. Quiero ver después, antes de entrar a las misiones, qué puedes hacer.
As mentioned earlier, one of my biggest worries was that the Veilguard could end up being more linear in its approach, trading branching gameplay for a straight line. And sure, the opening hours, essentially the tutorial zone, are a little railroady, save for a couple key decisions you have to make. But once you're past that and more established within Act 1, you're much more free to tackle quests as you please as you unlock more and more regions. You do this via the
Ah, bien,
crossroads. For those of
tenemos side quest, pero no es lineal.
you who aren't brushed up on your Dragon Age lore, that's a nexus between the waking world of Thetis and the metaphysical realm of the Fade, through which the ancient elves would travel through magical mirrors called Alluvians. You now use the Alluvians for that same purpose, and to unlock new regions, you have to fight through certain areas of the crossroads before you can start fast traveling to them. Unlocking said regions opens up a vast network of areas, and not unlike past Dragon Age games, they're dramatically different from one another.
Nice. Eso me parece nice. Va a haber diferentes environments.
Take, for
Esto-
example, the Arlithan Forest. a gorgeous, colorful region that mixes greenery with elven magic.
Este
You
juego
can
se
see
ve bien.
Nevs burrow
Es
into the
prometedor,
grass, magical
honestamente.
artifacts abound, and there's a vast array of nature to simply admire. You're hit with a massive tone shift.
No había visto Shield. Acho, me imagino que mientras vas progresando puedes conseguir diferentes shields. Weapon. Debería ser así el juego. Obvio, asumo que va a ser así. Diantre, que esa a mí me encanta porque tú empiezas con un shield bien mierda. Y cuando tú estás en el endgame es como que... Papi, mira con el chill que llegué. Y ese chill... ¿Quieres que te cuente cómo lo conseguí? Pues había un caballero. La leyenda cuenta. Nadie podía matarlo. Llevaba 3000 años esperando al guerrero indicado para que cargara su espada. Mentira. Vamos para allá, vamos a ver esto. Yo solamente vengo por el loot. Si tú tienes mi loot, lo necesito. Préstamelo. ¿Ok? Sencillo. Y aquí si llegamos, probablemente sea por el loot también. ¿Qué? ¿Pero
While
por
the
qué tú le metiste
Veilguard's tone
así?
certainly leans more high fantasy in places like the Crossroads, don't worry. Those who miss the gore and dark fantasy of Origins will find that too in places where the blight has spread. But I couldn't help but spend a lot of my time just running around in Treviso, the bustling city that's home to the Antivan
Se ve
Crows
nice.
faction. For one
Se ve lindo.
thing, a lively city feels like a novelty in Dragon Age. But there was simply so much to explore that I kept getting sidetracked. A merchant with unique items here, a new quest to pick up over there, and a random combat encounter over there. And that's just when I wasn't looking around for a cat or dog to pet. Because yes, you can pet the cats and dogs.
Yo hago petting. No voy a mentir, yo hago petting.
Outside of the
A
cats
cada
and
rato,
dogs,
a
there are
cada
some
rato.
unique ways to interact with the environment as well. Each companion has an environmental ability, some of which came in quite handy for me. In my time in the Arlethan Forest, I frequently called upon Balara, whose environmental ability allows her to tinker with magical artifacts. In a nice quality of life feature, your companions don't even need to be in your party in order for you to use these abilities. As an aside, another one of my favorite quality of life additions is the fact that party banter pauses and picks up again later if you trigger combat, a cutscene, or anything else that would interrupt their dialogue.
Ok, so parece ser que vamos a tener los companions en algunas áreas. Podemos usar los skills aunque no
That's
estemos
right.
con los
No
companions.
more awkward standing around in order to hear the complete conversation.
Oh, ellos siguen el diálogo, pero no
If
tienes
you're
que estar
feeling
para
overwhelmed,
nice.
the difficulty and accessibility options do allow for about just as much or as little hand-holding as you need. For example, with one Antivan Crow's quest I was doing, I could turn the navigation on and simply follow the game's guidance, or turn it off and look for clues in the environment to follow.
Nice.
In this case, the crow's purple symbol painted on certain walls.
El UI es súper importante
Vamos
para
this
mí. By the way, este jueguito... Mira, yo prendí los captions. By the way, este jueguito, el UI, como pueden ver, bien clean. Para mí eso es bien importante cuando tú estás por ahí. Mientras más porquería tú tienes... El juego, recuerdo el de... ¿Cómo era que se llama el juego este de Suicide Squad? El UI era horrible. O sea, yo veía gameplay, se veía cool, cómo se veía el mundo, el universo, todo. Pero cuando tú estabas en el gameplay, era tanto revolú dentro de la pantalla que en verdad... Para personas como
I
yo,
also just
que parecen
happened to
de
be playing
vértigo
an
y
Antivan
eso,
Crow Rook while completing
es
this
malísimo
quest,
jugar
which led
juegos
to some
así.
fun dialogue
Toca
options.
pagarle todo.
Crows are
El
all the
blur,
army Antiva has.
el
It's
lighting,
not like
bajárselo
we
a
can
low.
the garrison.
Once I was in the thick of things, I could clearly see the features in the
Diablo.
Veilguard that boiled
Mil y
down
pico,
to,
le rompiste el
we
escudo.
heard
No,
the
no, no, no le
complaints
hizo
about
nada.
Inquisition,
Wow.
specifically addressing the infamous Hinterlands problem, which is a reference to the first open world area players visit in Inquisition. The zone was packed with more than 50 side quests, many
Se ve bastante sencillo también la combinación de skills
of
y
which
todo.
boiled down to mere fetch quests, and it left many
Nice,
players drowning in
damn.
a bevy of checklists that felt inconsequential to
¿Y
the
eso?
story. The Veilguard has boiled this down quite a lot.
Los arqueros
You're
siempre
still
también
free to
tienen una
explore,
habilidad bien
but the
cool, a mí me
scope isn't
encantan.
nearly as dizzying, and the quests point back to the main story, a region or faction, or a companion. Another clear reaction to criticisms of Inquisition are our villains in the Veilguard, Algernon and Gillenane. The two elven gods feel much more present throughout the events of the early game than Corypheus, the frankly lackluster baddie of Inquisition.
Whatever comes, we're ready for a fight.
Words easily said.
Yo no voy a
but
mentir,
rarely
a mí me
proven.
While there's a
encanta cómo
whole
se
lot
ve el
more
juego.
Thedas to see
Me
and talk
encanta
about,
cómo
I'd
se ve el
be remiss
visual,
if
el
I didn't bring it
universo.
back home to the lighthouse.
Me llama.
The lighthouse will likely be the most important
Ok, ese es el hub.
location of the Veilguard. serving as the hub for you and your companions. Each one of your companions has their own room, and conveniently, a light shines outside of their door when they have a cutscene available. Once you get further into Act 1, it certainly starts to feel more lived in, and you can discover some pretty charming character quirks. For example, I found that Emmerich's skeletal assistant Manfred enjoys spending time on the balcony, and we even got a few games of rock, paper, scissors in.
What?
The lighthouse is also, obviously, where you're able to do some housekeeping, especially when it comes to the caretaker.
Offer, dweller.
Upgrade Shan. Oh, nice. Okay.
This wildly helpful spirit is always standing by to help you enchant and upgrade armor for you and your companions.
Eso es lo que me gusta de este juego, como les digo. Este juego es un single player RPG action turn-based con todas las características de un MMO en cuestión de upgrades, enchanting. Y estos juegos son para mí bien divertidos. En verdad, como lo fue Fable también. Cuando jugué Fable por primera vez fue súper exagerado.
This game is facing. Bringing in new players while honoring the now incredibly vast lore that Dragon Age has built across the games, comic books, short stories, and more. Basically, if you were worried that the name change from Dragon Age Dreadwolf would mean less Solus, think again. His history, along with the history of the other elven gods, is baked into the lighthouse, and you learn more and more about the threat you face as you unlock Solus's murals with various wolf statues. You even get to see some of his memories firsthand.
They need gods who can protect them.
Si tú eres amante de Lord of the Rings, si eres amante, ¿sabes? De lo que son estos juegos míticos, Elder Scrolls y todo, este juego te va a encantar. Sin lugar a dudas, se ve muy lindo.
Will be involved in some way, as you can recreate them and select your world states in the character creator. But I do wonder if it'll overwhelm
los bosses se ven bien
players,
también.
which BioWare
Miren.
certainly seems to be courting with its action-heavy combat system.
Me gusta cómo se ve.
That's why it helps, at least, to have something of an outsider
sale yo creo que ya mismo.
the helm of the Veilguard.
Estamos octubre que
Plus, the
sale esto. Ya
scrappiness
lo
of
tenemos
Rook
Call of
reminded
Duty en
me
las
a bit
costillas
of playing
saliendo
as
también
Hawk in
por ahí.
Dragon Age 2,
Veilguard,
rather than the more chosen
Throne and
one-esque
Liberty.
protagonists of the Warden in Origins and the Inquisitor in
Warhammer,
Inquisition.
mucho
In
juego
short,
bueno para
a
mí.
lot's changed in Dragon Age the Veilguard, but there was so much I was relieved to see stay. The focus on companions and romance, the rich lore, and a gorgeous world to explore.
Tiene mucho para
It goes without
entretenerse.
saying that there's still a ton of the Veilguard that I haven't seen, especially if it's as big as Origins and Inquisition, and it certainly seems like it. But after finishing my preview, I found myself even more eager to dive into it, and much more hopeful that this could be the hit BioWare needs.
Yo no les voy a mentir, para mí este es el juego que BioWare necesitaba. Literalmente este es el juego que BioWare necesitaba. ¿Sabes? Visualmente se ve bien, la historia se ve bastante appealing, ¿sabes? Llama la atención. El combate se ve bien, el character creation se ve exagerado. Estamos hablando que tienes diferentes roles que puedes usar, tienes diferentes companions que puedes usar, tienes diferentes enchanting que puedes hacer, diferentes historias, romance, etcétera. En verdad, ¿qué más tú quieres en un juego RPG turn-based action? Se ve bastante bien. Vamos a ver cuando esto salga. En verdad, vamos a tener que darle un look a ver qué tal. Corillo, no olvides que me puedes ir en donde Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter X, para que vean todo lo que estamos haciendo. Vacilen con nosotros, sean parte del journey. Así que antes de irme, como siempre yo les digo, Happy Gaming. Viene que hay un par de cositas por ahí para ver y también hay un par de juegos para meterle.